Hello everyone, welcome back. I woke up this morning with a burning desire to know how powerful this AR pistol is with the 10.5-inch barrel. Okay, so pulled out the chronograph, pulled out two types of ammunition, green tips and Tula, and I did some shooting and I took some measurements. I'm going to share that with you guys. Now, when people usually think of how powerful a gun is, or rather how powerful an ammunition is, they usually talk about energy, okay? The reason why we talk about energy is because it takes into consideration both the velocity and the weight of the bullet. That's how we can compare, let's say, a 44 Magnum with a 220 grain bullet to, let's say, an AR-15 with a 55 grain bullet. And we can get a fair comparison. Okay, so we're looking at energy, which is expressed in units of foot-pounds, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. So first I'm going to talk about the AR with the 16-inch barrel, just because that's the most common. That's what most of you have. Let's see, with the green tips, I got an average velocity of 2896, which gave me an energy of 1154. Okay, so 1154 is the energy. By comparison, the AR with the 10.5-inch barrel, that gave me an average velocity about 26, of about 2580, which gave me an average energy of 930 foot-pounds. Okay, so I actually ran that a couple of times because I saw some pretty big variations, and I finally got to an average that I felt comfortable with. So the energy is 930 foot-pounds. So from a 16-inch barrel, okay, down to a 10.5-inch barrel, we go from 1154 to 930. Okay, so that's a nice size drop in energy. Okay, and then with the 7.5-inch barrel, right? That's this one over here. Okay, 7.5-inch barrel, average velocity drops down to 2150, and that gives us an average energy of 636 foot-pounds. Okay, 636 foot-pounds. Okay, so 16-inch barrel, we said 1154. 10.5-inch barrel, we said 930. 7.5-inch barrel, 636 energy. Okay, so that's interesting because as we go from the 16-inch barrel down to the 7.5-inch barrel, basically we pretty much cut the barrel length in half, and we actually cut the energy in half. Okay, because when we get down to 636 energy, we're basically talking about either we're talking about like a 44 Magnum, right? Either a really hot 357, or a kind of like a medium, 44 Magnum. Okay, that's where we are with that. Okay, so those are the actual energy numbers as I have measured them here today with the chronograph. Now let's talk about Tula, right? I was talking about all those numbers were with the green tips. Let's talk about the Tula that most of us have and that we stockpile. Where are we? Tula. Okay, Tula with the 16-inch barrel. We got an average energy of about 1,000 foot-pounds. Okay, so we go from 1154 to 1,000. Okay, when we go from green tips to Tula. Okay, with the 10.5-inch barrel, we drop down to about 740. Okay, so we go from so on a 10.5-inch barrel, we go from 930 green tips to 730 Tula steel case. Okay, and then with the 7.5-inch barrel, let's see, when we drop down to Tula, where's Tula? There we go, 520. Okay, so we go from 636 to 520 foot-pounds. Okay, so that's what you're losing. That's the energy that you're losing. So you're losing an energy of at least, in all these measurements, you're losing an energy of at least 100 foot-pounds. What's 100 foot-pounds? That's basically a 22, right? A 22, let's say, well, I mean, a 22 in the full size 6-inch barrel is usually like 120, but sometimes you get the cheaper ammunition. So it's basically what it's the energy of a 22, uh, 22 cheap ammo in a rifle. Okay, so that's what you're losing when you go from the from the brass, okay, to the to the steel case. Now these are 62 grain bullets, okay, but that's factored into the calculation, okay, because now that we got the numbers out, let's talk a little bit about how these numbers are calculated. What we're doing is we take the velocity, we square it, okay, so basically we multiply the velocity against itself, right, and then we multiply it by the weight of the bullet, and then we divide it by a conversion factor, okay, that's how we get our energy. Now there's another number to consider here, right? That's the momentum number. Okay, now normally when we're talking about bullet comparisons, the momentum number has kind of fallen out of favor because what that does is that does not square the velocity. That's just a straight velocity times the mass divided by a conversion number. Okay, and in that number, the heavier bullet is going to get more weight. Okay, so for example, if we look at the momentum numbers, right, of the AR with the 16-inch barrel, okay, we get a with using the green tips, we get 1154. Okay, using looking at the energy. But when we look at the momentum, we get a momentum of 25. Okay, so now what does that number mean? Well, let's compare it to a 44 Magnum. When you comparing it to a 44 Magnum with a, let's say, a 220 grain bullet, the energy, right, of the 44 Magnum is somewhere in the area of about 1,000, right? It can be a little bit less. Actually, let me switch over to the page where I did this calculation. I got many pages of uh, numbers I've been collecting over a very long period of time. So let me pause the camera for a second so I can find this. Okay, so I found my 44 Magnum. Okay, so we said that the energy that we calculated with the 16-inch barrel using green tips was 1154. Okay, and it gave us a momentum of 25. Now comparing that to a 44 Magnum, okay, I got here one that I measured. All right, this one had a 245 grain bullet moving at 1152. All right, so the bullet is actually going much slower, but it's a heavier bullet. Okay, so 245 grain going at 1152 gave me an energy of 720. Okay, so the energy is 722. All right, compared to the 1154, but the momentum is 40. So it gave us a momentum of 40 compared to the energy that we saw of 25 on the 16-inch barrel. So what do these numbers mean? Okay, so how do you think of energy versus momentum? So the way I think of it, energy is like if you have a whip and you whip something. Okay, momentum is basically taking a fist and punching it. Okay, so if you're interested in penetration, I would probably look at the energy number, right? If you're interested in how much force does it put into the thing that's being shot, or how much knockdown power, if that's what you're interested in, then I would look at the momentum numbers. Okay, so now both of these are calculated numbers. Okay, ultimately, the way that you really test it, right? Because these if you really want to test it, you put up the thing that you want to shoot, right? That you think that you would be shooting, all right? And then, like, for example, if you think that you're going to be shooting through flesh, right? You put up a carcass, you shoot it, and you see if you get the desired results. If you're looking for penetration, then you put up, let's say, whatever, a steel plate, you know, whatever material you think you'd be shooting through, and you actually look at the type of penetration that you want. If you're looking for like knockdown power, right? So if you want something that will, let's say, actually knock over, let's say that steel plate over there, right? Well, you shoot that steel plate, you know, maybe put it on rollers or something, right? And see how far back the different ammunition actually pushes back that steel plate when it's on rollers or something. So, you know, that is actually a more practical way to measure it. But the problem is that, you know, I can set up a test where I've got my steel plate on rollers and I'm shooting it and I'm saying, okay, moved it back whatever 1 foot or moved it back 3 feet. Um, Somebody setting up the same test might set it up slightly different. Their plate might be heavier. Their rollers might have more resistance. You know, maybe the ground is not as level. You know, so it's really hard to duplicate that test. That's why we use the chronograph and we do the energy and momentum test, because you know I could tell somebody, hey, order yourself some Tula, shoot it out of a 16-inch barrel, okay? You know, run it through the chronograph, and I don't care where you are in the world, okay? You should get the same numbers that I get, okay? And again, there is variance between these rounds. There's as much as 100 feet per second through the green tips, and the Tulas had even more variance, okay? Which means that you're going to get a larger spread. So there's going to be variance. You're never going to get the exact same numbers, but you know, somebody else duplicating this test with the same gun, with the same length barrels, with the same type of ammunition should get similar results anywhere in the world. So that's why we use these measurements of energy and momentum to compare, you know, to compare the ammunition being shot out of different guns. Okay, so I hope that was interesting to you guys. It was actually a very interesting test for me because I already knew where these two numbers were because I had tested those in the past. This gun I built last year, so I had never run this through a chronograph, and I wanted to see where this fell in, and now I got my answer, energy of about 930, compared to the energy of 1154 here on the 16-inch, and 640, about 640 on the 7.5-inch with the green tip. So drop some comments below. If you're not a member of the channel, subscribe, hit the bell button so you get notification of new videos I put up. I'll talk to everyone soon.